Hey everybody, and welcome to volume 28 of the One Piece Book Club blah 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 podcast. Listen up, folks. I am God Eneru, and this is my survival podcast. I predict 2 men will enter this podcast, and by the end, only 1 will remain. Who will it be now? Let's find out. I am Mumkey D. Jones, joined as always by the co-captain of the measly crew, Aggie Rodriguez!
All right, you got blown out a little bit for me, but I'm guessing that there was a V in there. That's right. I'm remembering it this week. And, you know, I'm feeling extra virginal because, you know, really, I saw my Literally Me character in the last volume, and he's back in this volume ready to throw hands. I'm talking about Mr. Yama. But
Mr. Yama, that's your Literally Me? Not, I mean, we have Wapol literally getting married to the most beautiful woman in the universe.
Well, see, the Wapol story has a lot of parallels, except, you know, once I would become the richest, most successful tycoon imaginable, I would still be lay good, and I would never fall back into any old patterns. Okay, that's why I was really projecting myself onto Wapol throughout
the only good billionaire who ever lived? I don't know, Aggie. I think money might even corrupt you.
Well, as long as he's putting out a quality robotic product, how could a billionaire be wrong? You know
I see you win like $10 on a scratch off and you think, how can I buy a slave? Okay, you get corrupted by any amount of money.
That's a rental price. Okay, I know my limits. All right, that's not the purchase price, okay?
Aggie, survival game podcast, out of the 2 of us, who do you think is gonna live to see another day?
Well, you know, I really gotta vouch for myself. I don't think, logically speaking, that that's the smart play. But, I mean, how could I bet against myself in a literal life or death? It is what it is. I gotta do what I gotta do.
And before we dive into Enel's survival game, Aggie, I want to know what is top of mind from volume 28, covering chapters 256 to 264.
Well, I guess probably, to be honest, it is the reveal of Eneru's great godly power. I mean, and not even just the mantra, but the fact that this man appears to be, I want to say human lightning. I'm just going to say that because whether he's a god or a sky person, whatever the case might be, the very fact that he takes human form makes me just say he's a lightning man, okay? Kamakiri hits him with the spear, and he just gives him the old, like, sideshow Bob shit, like, oh, I think I might have just felt something. Like, okay. Probably secondary to that, I don't know. I'm just going to go off of my real reactive instinct here, is when Chopper is, like, running through the Shandians and the, like, heavenly soldiers fighting, and he's just in complete terror and running to save his life. I even went and watched that episode of the anime, and I don't know, there's just something about it that I just laugh when he's like...
Yeah, he's like a child running through a war zone, and he's getting very traumatized immediately. It's very funny. We love watching children run through war.
Yeah, and then I also like, I think probably the just the whole of chapter 262 with Chopper and Gadatsu, like just how like completely incompetent Gadatsu is, because I really had nothing to base off of his character preceding this volume, except that he had big spiky hair that looked like a temple, and I thought that was funny. So I was like, I like that guy just because he has big spiky hair, and then he appears to be completely incompetent. Like Chopper's wandering around, he thinks it's a raccoon that just lives in the upper yard, and then he finds out that it's his opponent, and the fight is quite humorous. I think, I don't know, I like the remaining 2 of the 3 Tori triplets, but...
Oh my fucking god! That's on my bottom of mind list of shit that pissed me off.
I mean...
Like, God, I thought we got rid of this bastard and he has 2 more?
Right, exactly. There's more of them, and they're double, and they're smug with all their secret mystery dials. Maybe there was a little bit of like a slot machine aspect of the dials and dials, around they go. What's the power? Nobody knows. And also really just the
fart dial, fucking like the Minions fart gun.
The greater explanation from Gonfall here of the what exactly impact and reject dials have going on. There's just a lot of cool little things sprinkled between a lot of combat and parallel or maybe adjacent, whatever, separate from the actual main story. The cover story here was also quite compelling this week with Wapol. Unfortunately, I can't really blame him. All right, I'm going to say this. How it ended up, I can't really blame him, but I did wish it could have gone a little bit differently. But sometimes we are fated, perhaps you might say destined to go a certain direction. And Wapol, it happened a certain way he had to go.
Egg, you look at it this way. It's only chapter 260, right? We got like 1,000 to go. Wapol could have 10 more character arcs. You never know.
Yeah,
he certainly had like 2 so far.
That's true. I feel like he was kind of almost intentionally, I don't know, like, I feel like the industry, when he went corporate, we've seen it here in our real reality in our current day, when these private equity investment firms come in. I think Jersey Mike's Subs restaurant was recently acquired. They said, like, now all the ingredients, they're buying the cheapest that exists in the world. They're not going for the better sourcing they used to do.
And they hire Danny DeVito for the commercials, and he's kind of a Wapol-esque figure, so it really all connects.
He's the closest we have in our reality of a real Wapol.
Wapol got cast, I believe. Did we ever look at that? Or I know that his minions got cast. I don't know if Wapol himself did. We should look into that for the live action. But continue your thought. And I have a lot of unpacking to do for your top of mind, but please continue.
Yeah, I just feel like, he had an organic success, or I guess maybe another one that I actually just heard about recently. I don't know if you've heard about this with the Sriracha hot sauce. Did you ever hear about that controversy?
No, what's going on?
For a couple of years. It was back around the COVID time. Basically, if you're familiar with the Sriracha story, I'm going to pronounce it that way, even though that's probably not right, but it was sort of this one man. He came over as a first-generation immigrant, and he really built himself up from the bottom with his hot sauce recipe, the way he wanted to do it. Well, back in like 2020, the supply chains got a little iffy, and due to constraints, the jalapeno supplier, I believe it was, that he had, they said, hey, listen, things are a little iffy right now. We're going to need a larger cut. We need to renegotiate. We're going to need a larger cut of the profits for us, compared to what we're getting right now. And the Sriracha guy said, hey, I can get a jalapeno anywhere. Get out of here. Boom. Kicked him right to the curb. And now they said that Sriracha just is very inconsistent now. It doesn't taste as good as it used to because it was so consistent from this one supplier, kind of like how McDonald's, I think they get their potatoes from like certain farms for all their restaurants. So this consistency got interrupted, and then the jalapeno supplier actually went into business themselves, processing their own fruits into their own sauce, which people say actually resembles like the Sriracha of 5+ years ago, and now they're successful because of that. And the guy who his sauce is, I'm sure people are still buying it, but I wasn't even aware that there was any sort of downfall of Sriracha until recently. But it's just one of those things where certain corporate decisions that it might seem like they're in your best interest at the time, but at the end of the day, it could really put you in a bad position.
Well, let's hear it, because I don't know if Wapol is reducing the quality of his toys here as he expands his business. He's created an entirely new alloy called Wapol metal. That's what the scientist was so intrigued about previously. So, he's invented a new metal. He's making all these toys. He's expanding his business and making kids around the world happy and getting rich off of it. Finds a beautiful woman. Where's the Sriracha, dog shit comparison here? Where is he changing the recipe?
I'm making a little bit of an assumption here just based on the caption of the final chapter of Wapol, where it says, "The big evil is back. Wapol sets his sights on the world." I think if they just said, like, "The big man is back," yeah, I could have just taken it a different way. Maybe this is a translation faux pas, but the fact that they're really indicating that he is intending to go back to an evil way, and because I suppose his product.
Show me a CEO who's not evil, Aggie. I mean, it's just the way of the world. He has world domination aspirations.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, we just saw from one volume ago, probably maybe 10 or 11 chapters, literally urinated on by animals, children, like orphans throwing rocks and garbage in his face. Okay.
You think he should have been humbled?
I feel like, yes, he could have been on a trajectory to build himself back up, but he could have gone a different direction. I think that being surrounded by these corporate people, going right to the most coveted woman in the world, and all this money and all this glitz and glamour, I think that there were too many vices and too many temptations in the mix of all this that, just kind of flipped his switch back on. Because yes, I don't think there are any good rich people probably, but except for Paul Newman's estate.
And Elon Musk, he's saving the world, right, Aggie?
I heard that we're all getting $5,000 checks pretty soon, so that's gonna be. I gotta make sure I pay my taxes.
My heart goes out to him. I just can't show the gesture.
That might be the gesture that Wapol is showing here with his raised
the
glass.
gesture that Otis' grandpa was doing. Sorry. So yeah, my top of mind was also going to be Wapol. So let's we can combine the two here. But I think we really did cover it. I like that he went from riches to rags and back to riches of his own accord and his own skill. And I like that he was not changed on a personal level by poverty. A real man, like if Donald Trump was homeless for a month, I think he'd still be the man he is today, right? Like who lets new experiences and new perspectives change who they are? Fools do, is what I say. Wapol is my kind of man.
Well, I mean, he was king before, and I guess if he saw the same kingly mindset, I suppose he wouldn't have had really any reason to change his role so far as a leadership perspective, because he might have had maybe social dealings that might have, he might think twice about doing one thing or another thing, but I think from that leadership perspective, he's only known just being the Drum Island king. He just sort of was thrust into this great success by his munch fruit powers. So I could definitely see that angle that, I'd be putting the uniform back on there. But hey, at least, if nothing else, no matter what, even if he wants to be, let's say, the total tyrannical ruler and the richest man in the entire world and maybe want to put mind control chips here or there, the matter of the fact is that he created a bunch of toys that children love, and he has brought unfathomable happiness to the youth of the world, just like Mr. Rogers, Walt Disney, other American heroes of that sort.
Jeff Bezos, Ronald McDonald, all of the best billionaires.
Coca-Cola.
Yeah. I looked it up. Wapol was cast. He kind of looks like the fat brother-in-law in Severance, but it's probably not that guy. But, paint his hair purple, and it'll probably fit pretty good.
They should cast Dylan from Severance as Wapol, and I think he would do a good job.
He could be Kuro Marimo when they're fused together, because you got to be black for that.
That's true.
I think that's both of our top of mind. I was going to talk about the invincibility of Eneru that we see here, and you're wondering, is he a man or a god? Well, this is One Piece, like crocodile can turn into sand from a devil fruit. Why can't this guy turn into lightning? Right?
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, why not?
We just haven't. I don't believe we've received an inclination yet to this point that he's eaten like the shock fruit or something. But I would imagine it's the most feasible explanation for what he's got to offer.
That's usually my go-to. Is if it's unexplainable, it's probably a devil fruit. It's a good rule of thumb for One Piece. Hey, Aggie, we've got a new member of the Measly crew, and he actually has a comment to accompany his joining. But let's get him a position first. He says, "No, his name is Death Servant. Has joined the Measly crew. What should he be?"
Well, he sounds like a clairvoyant death servant, like he would maybe serve the dead after passing to deliver messages from the other side. I feel like there might have been somebody that we've had that was in a similar vein to that is not immediately coming to mind for me, but that name just makes me feel like that sort of that sort of role.
So what would he do on our pirate crew? Talk to the dead, like with a Ouija board? Is he the mortician for when our 50 crew members pass away, and he can keep their spirit alive and speak to us through, as a medium?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what our experiences with death have been. I don't know if we've really necessarily had anybody actually dying, I guess. Everybody's just sort of been like Team Rocketed off into a blip and then come back in a cover story.
What about Pell? Never mind. What about Igor? Oh. Well, maybe someday somebody will die and Death Servant can join in, but here's what his comment had to say. And just put him down as the mortician for now. We'll figure something else out, maybe. He says, based, also, I don't watch One Piece, but I've watched every episode you guys make talking about it, pure Kino. So Death Servant's not even a One Piece fan, he's a fan of us talking about One Piece.
Which means that's how you know that you're doing it right, because I think we should be able to paint the picture of the world through our discussion, and you wouldn't even need to read or watch to get the idea of what's going on. So this podcast being a substitute for the greatest story ever made is probably the most depressing thing I've ever heard, but I'm glad he's enjoying it. We could just start making shit up, and he'll think it's the real deal of One Piece. Let's see. Does April 1st fall on a Wednesday this year? Are we going to fake them out? Let's take an hour to make a completely fake episode and see if anybody catches it.
I believe it's a Tuesday.
It is.
Because I have a scheduled Kino release for that day of Mickey 17. Stay tuned, folks. It's no fool. No joke. So yeah, did you like it in this volume when Usopp stuck his phallic nose into Nami's pussy?
Hey, to be honest, it was overdue. I understand.
And he said, damn, it stinks in here.
Listen, I mean, frankly, I would think that the salt water would act like as a neutralizing agent, you know? I mean, it's like how you salt your pork to keep it from spoiling in wartime, you know? It is what it is.
Okay, that's a very real thing that happened, and Death Servant now knows about it. Here's some more comments. Ghoul City Offline says, I love listening to Aggie's predictions. It's really interesting hearing when he gets it almost dead on correct versus wrong. It's like, damn, you really could predict a lot of the future if you're paying attention and really thinking, but it's also humbling hearing what he gets wrong, especially in this current era with so many theories on how it's going to end or what's going to happen to certain characters. So, that was a fun comment about Aggie's predictions. Who knows what he's got right and what he's got wrong so far.
Yeah,
what's your biggest correct prediction so far, Aggie? Ace showing up on Buggy's ship, maybe? That was a big one. That was left field and you fucking nailed it.
I guess, yeah, probably, yeah. As far as a real bullseye that wasn't inferred. I mean, like, even from the last volume, I was like, okay, well, we see them being split up. It was funny. I don't know if this would necessarily be a correct prediction, but the fact that Robin was depicted first in that final chapter where they're getting lost and confused, and she was going the correct way. So that's kind of what I suspected. Like I said before, I read that everybody was lost. I thought she just kind of broke out ahead of the pack there, but I was just like, oh, I see conflict on the horizon. I mean, they have to. There's got to be some sort of, mid-level fight, and then we'll get to God Eneru. But I could not have anticipated just how many concurrent fights there were going to be with all 81 total combatants. So that was a little surprising to me. Like, I thought maybe it would just kind of be like a regroup and boom down this way, but it was...
It's a real battle royale, a survival game, you could say. Some might say. Last two comments real quick. Poopy Doopy says, I would watch a baggage podcast. There are apparently 300 episodes. Now, that's news to me. I think Pluto TV only has a storage of about 40 baggage episodes. If there's 300, I don't even know where to access all those. Maybe in Jerry Springer's tomb.
Maybe perhaps they have we'd like to have, if we're going to do a podcast, I'm sure we'd like to commit and have one of those Brutal Moose style rotating tables where we could have like the Blu-ray collection, like under stage lighting and rotating around.
I do have one of those, but it no longer works. But I did have that for the Monkey Box for a little bit. Then I did steal the idea from him, definitely. But the comment continues, at a One Piece card game locals, I saw a dude have a mental breakdown playing against the Eneru deck. He was yelling, pounding the table, and practically jumping out of his seat for 35 minutes while Eneru humbled his ass. I know nothing about the One Piece card game, but sounds like an Eneru deck is pretty good.
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind for me would be like a physical resistance and like an elemental bonus. Just knowing what I know about card games, I've never even seen a single card of the One Piece card game, but seeing what I saw in this volume and applying it to that, and possibly like maybe there's some sort of like chips that you put on your card to, and like maybe a conductor chip. Oh, you take 20% more electric damage, I deal 20% more. Something like that comes to mind for me. But a quick cursory Google search of Amazon baggage Jerry Springer does not immediately pull up a Blu-ray collection. So
tragic.
We might have to go on a real Lost Media deep dive. Maybe the podcast would actually be worth it because we'd have access to those hard to find episodes.
It's probably on new-fmovies.cam. They took down season 1 of The Floor, but they still have it on newfmovies.cam. I don't know why they're trying to hide The Floor from us.
I got put onto Cinebuy or Cinebi, which however you pronounce that recently, because they get the new Severance the fastest.
Oh.
This is all a joke, by the way, for the FBI listening and the FCC and whoever else.
Nah, they can suck my fucking monkey dick. I'm not joking. I steal everything. Fucking stop me. Fuck you. Twitch Sebastian responded to Poopy Doopy, said, I have a similar story. My local hosts Yu-Gi-Oh! And One Piece the same night on opposite sides of the store. One night between rounds, it's pretty quiet. Suddenly a One Piece player pops off, jumps out of his seat, pumping his fists in the air, screaming, "Yes! I beat Katakuri!" Talked to him after, and he was still stoked. So, somebody was excited to beat Katakuri, Aggie. What are your thoughts?
Well, I know Kamakuri from this volume. Katakuri, maybe there's a twins situation like how the Tori triplets exist. Maybe that's his brother or something.
You just try to bring me down every time. He's got to bring up those fucking triplets. Kill my spirit.
Yeah, that's what comes to mind. It's two guys that have the same name except one letter's changed. I mean, it's just right. It's laid out on this beautifully round, obese platter right in front of me, so it's hard to not gravitate towards it, no pun intended.
Well, Aggie, this segue would have been better if I read the comments in a different order, but speaking of Aggie predictions, let's move on to the volume, and it opens up chapter 1. Eneru gives us his survival game prediction, and by the end of this, only 5 will remain, and that gives me a dark feeling in my stomach, because last time I counted, there's more than 5 Straw Hat Pirates. So at the end of this all-out war, Aggie, which 5 characters do you think will remain?
Well, I thought that, for some reason, it doesn't make sense, but I thought that they counted 5 Straw Hats, because they're in that chapter. There's not 5 Straw Hats, obviously. I guess I just might have read that a little bit wrong, so I thought when they were tallying them, I thought that they had counted themselves, because they had the vassals and the heavenly warriors and the Shandians and then the Straw Hats. I thought when they said that they had counted 5 Straw Hats. I guess I was incorrect there.
So you thought Eneru was happily predicting everybody would be dead except for these 5 enemies? He's not even including himself as a survivor?
I imagine that they probably will defeat him, but at the same time, yeah, I mean, he is literally a god. Gonfall, I mean, yeah.
Is he going to be in the top 5?
I feel like he ought to. I mean, I'm not saying he should die, but I'm just saying that, I would feel like the Straw Hats have a greater limits to their power, like a higher ceiling to their power. Like they could progress or go through an arc mid-fight or just prior, or maybe they're about to lose and they tap into some unknown potential. I mean, Gonfall, he already got ousted previously, so like his power level is kind of charting lower already. So I feel like he's
out. He's not top 5. Okay, what about Luffy? Is Luffy top 5 material here?
I'm going to say yes. I guess I did misread this here. So Eneru says the Blue Sea people 4 entered the forest and 3 escaped. We're not counting Gonfall, so that would be 7. Yeah, I guess I would imagine that Eneru doesn't count the fact that he's going to die. So, I mean, he probably just should be wrong, I guess. But if he did count himself, oh, well, when he comes up on the ship, when it's Nami and Gonfall on the ship and he, like, zaps Sanji.
And Usopp.
Knocks him out. They do, now, it's immediately corrected, like, I was just listening to the wrong side, but they didn't sense a heartbeat. So maybe there could be something there. Maybe there'll be like a paralysis of some kind on the impact of Eneru's attack. Maybe they'll do some sort of electro cardiac arrest, shock for a second there. Maybe when they defeat him, maybe this like paralysis stasis will cease. It's maybe like an electrical prison of some kind. That would just have to be my best guess, or he's just totally wrong. But just inferring.
Well, let's say hypothetically. So, the survival game does not mean you have to die. You just have to be defeated in One Piece terms, which means you're kind of down for the count. So it's not like necessarily our main characters are guaranteed to be dead, but you know, which 5 will be the ones duking it out at the very end of all this is pretty much the idea.
Well, sorry, Usopp, but you know, I love Usopp and Chopper very much.
Hey, Chopper won his fight. He's doing good.
Yeah, but are they all going to converge? I still don't know if we're going to have a convergence of multiple Straw Hats versus Eneru, because I could see something like that too. Let's say if they all did do well enough in their own personal fights that you know, they would maybe converge, and it might take more than one combatant to overwhelm Eneru. But let's see here. Do Sanji and Usopp come back to it? I guess I forget.
I think they're pretty much fried throughout the whole volume. Just down for the count.
So yeah, if we're going off of those terms, I mean, we already have. We're not counting Gonfall because or Gonfor. I just feel like he could get wrecked. I feel like that's still definitely in the cards, that he could definitely get wrecked, so we're not counting him.
So our guarantee number 1, Luffy. What about Zoro? Is he top 5?
I think that he handled himself well enough. He really was facing a definite weakness for his to counteract his strengths in him fighting Braham, aka the man with the choppers, the flashing pistols.
Okay, I mean, what about Wiper? Let's get away from the Straw Hats. What about Wiper, who's right now, I guess he fought Luffy for a chapter, then Luffy kind of fell into darkness, which is unfortunate. Will Wiper be one of the top 5, Iggy?
Yeah, I suppose that Luffy does not come back into the trajectory converging on Eneru yet in this volume, so I suppose he could be out of the way for a minute. That's true.
I think the final panel of the volume is like Luffy's like looking at, he's near some ruins, he's in the dark, he found like a gold necklace or something. So, you know, he's not like dead or whatever, but he seems a little distracted maybe. He's doing something else.
Yeah, his voice might not be registering on Aisa's radar, perhaps, if he's down under but some ruins with gold, though. maybe Eneru's going to end up coming to Luffy, perhaps, instead of... but yeah, I guess I'm not really giving the Shandians here like any credit whatsoever. I'm just assuming they're all completely dead, and Gonfor is just dead. They're all going to die and lose. I mean... I was sort of like, how do I say, like, as I'm reading it, there's sort of this background fighting going on, and even to a maybe lesser degree in Alabasta, when there was some casualties incurred as this civil war was kind of popping off, I just maybe feel a little bit more strongly for the Shandians here, because, you know, they're not of the Blue Sea, they don't have this kingdom that could really necessarily be rebuilt. Like, this is their land, and it's just them. You know, if their warriors are getting taken out, they don't really have like another army they can just really bring in there. So I really would like to not have to presume that they're getting put down as collateral damage entirely here. Maybe and not that I hate the Heavenly Warriors either, but I mean, if they're serving Eneru, he's not really looking out for the best interests of the people. I don't think they're really behaving correctly. And Yama, I gotta say, as much as I love to call Yama the literally me, physically speaking, when Yama and Robin are going at it, and Yama's just like completely willy-nilly destroying priceless 800-year-old ruins, trying to fight Robin, that was not a good look for the heavenly people, I gotta say.
There's a mission in Mega Man Legends 2 where the Bond pirates they're like taking over this Middle Eastern village, and there's a sacred golden statue, and they take it as a hostage. So in Mega Man, you're trying to have this boss fight. Every time you shoot at the Bond pirates robot, they hold up the gold statue, and they're like, oh, no, don't destroy it, it's a sacred artifact of these people. And I think there is a way to win that boss fight without destroying it, but I can't be damned to look it up. So I destroy the statue every time, and then afterwards you can like pay a whole bunch of zenny to restore it for the village people, and then I'm sure you get an item or something, but fuck them. I killed the pirates. Is that not good enough for you little Middle Eastern PlayStation 1 characters, okay? Fuck your artifacts. Sometimes shit gets destroyed. Robin doesn't agree though, and I like that, her handicap in the fight is that she's getting hit in the efforts of protecting these artifacts. So she's like she's so much stronger than the guy that she needed this handicap, really. And I like the I don't know what they're called, like the little goat warrior guys, and he uses his axe dial to take out 2 Shandians no problem. So it's kind of their power scaling. Okay, one of these guys can take out 2 fodder Shandians, but then the same guy attacks Luffy, and then he's killed in 1 punch. So like Luffy's just that much higher than all of them.
Yeah, that was funny too. When Chopper v Gedatsu, where the Heavenly Warrior is like trying to serve Gedatsu, but he's just so incompetent and negligent and such a complete idiot that he's like, hey, you know what? I'm no longer serving you. And then he gets the Swamp Challenge Cloud that just like devours him like as he stands, and the Chopper's like, get here.
Oda is good at writing forms of stupidity that I could not even fathom. Like the fact that Gedatsu rolls his eyes to the back of his head and then thinks that Chopper has gone invisible. Like, how do you even come up with something that fucking stupid? So, sometimes I'm almost confused because I don't get the joke because the character is just that ridiculous. But back to the final 5 guessing. We already said Usopp and Sanji are down. What about Nami? Is she going to be final 5? Because Eneru could have killed her here, but he spared her.
I'm just trying. I think that what I could see Nami doing to hold her own is utilizing the dials. Like Usopp, probably I could have seen him utilizing the dials also. And I think she says as much. I think she's mentioned something towards the end of the volume about the dials. But yeah, I could have seen Usopp utilizing them, but he's fried and kind of out for the count right now. I think that she has the wherewithal intelligently to, and if she's still got her baton, her weaponry, to utilize the dials there. I don't know if she's going to have an easy fight. I don't think that with what she's got, but I think that she definitely has the capabilities to hold her own, especially if it's not directly against Eneru, if we're just going against a vassal or a handful of Heavenly Warriors, or even some Shandians. I think she's going to have the utility that she needs to overcome that.
Could it be that Nami and Gonfall having a double team against the Hattori brothers? Wait, is it Satori? I get it mixed up because there's a different character with that same name that I like a whole lot better. But could this be
call them the Tori triplets?
Yeah.
It's Satori, Hattori, and Katori.
Could this Tori triplet battle not be, maybe Nami's fight for the arc? Because we saw Zoro get a fight, Chopper, Nami. Luffy and I guess Sanji already had a fight earlier on, so maybe that's Sanji's technical fight since he got the finishing blow. But maybe some characters will get 2 fights, Anything could happen.
Yeah, I think that it certainly could count for her fight of the arc here, but my thought process was more that that's just going to be what's going to keep her from being taken out anyway. So if this 5 count is accurate, I think even if it is just not necessarily a defined fight, but if it's something to maybe even survive a collateral attack, maybe Eneru does some like great lightning smiting and just drops a bunch of explosions. Maybe she could use an impact dial or something on her staff to defend herself from that, just to stay in the mix.
And I think that's probably enough predicting who will survive when we know all these characters will live anyway. So, but here's another interesting thing. When Eneru is visiting them on the boat, a little friendly conversation with Gonfall, he says something along the lines of, what is it? I've used the Heavenly Warrior's labor for 6 years, and now I have no more use for the island, and I wanted to say goodbye. Well, sounds like the Shandians are getting their land back, Aggie. It all worked out. Eneru's just leaving.
Something about... I mean, I don't think there's necessarily anything to contradict that reading right now, other than the fact that they're having this war on the upper yard, and it's going to have a lot of them be killed like that. But we know that he wants, and I think in this volume they mention specifically it's the true name of the ruins. It isn't just the second half of Jaya.
Shandora?
Oh, no, Shandora. That's right. Yeah, you're right. So, Eneru is very intimately aware of the fact that the Straw Hats are going for those ruins. Luffy might have just lucked into them by accident. They have the map to kind of have a general idea. But he was talking about the Maxim, right? That's what his I don't think that we get that really explained fully yet in this volume. But is this something that could possibly be along the lines of the Pluton? Was that right? Is that what it was for Alabasta?
That is such a smart connection, Aggie. Oh, in 1,000 chapters, you're going to feel so smart. Man, that's good.
Well, I'm just thinking here because, there's definitely parallels because we have, in Alabasta, we need the this tablet or whatever transcribed by Robin to get the location of the Pluton. She does not give that information. The collapse comes out when we're past that here. But now we are, once again, in essentially a place that is through very fantastic means. It's up in the sky and it's been preserved, and there's these ruins that were once part of the Blue Sea that now we know if there's gold there. There's supposed to be a lot of gold there. We know that much, and I think we're getting an inclination that there is based on Luffy finding this necklace and that. But then we also have the Eneru saying that Maxim, if he's not talking about gold, that sort of thing doesn't benefit him. What would be funny though would actually be the fact that we know that gold is a very conductive metal, and if somehow he's going to coat himself in gold and become supercharged, that would also be funny. But that's just something that comes to mind for me is we have Robin in these ruins. She's trying to transcribe these things. They've been untouched for hundreds of years, and there's all this information that the Blue Sea is so unfamiliar with and unaware of, in the same way that they weren't aware of this royal tablet, or this royal word there's a word for it that I'm not using, but that was under Alabasta. So we also have this sort of sealed history that hasn't been known, but Eneru is familiar with something about it, whatever this Maxim is, and if it's going to increase his levels of power beyond his own godliness, I would have to imagine it's got to be pretty good stuff.
I like that connection you made with gold being conductive, because when you think about the One Piece theme of treasure and how Luffy says, oh, the Straw Hat, it's my treasure, and it's strange definitions of treasure are just personal definitions, really. What is the value of gold for a normal person? Monetary. It's it's shiny, it's rare, and we just say that it's worth money and we trade it. But to a man with electric powers, could gold have an actual physical purpose that he could actually use, not just for money, Aggie? Can you explain the science to me?
Well, so gold, it's used in computational hardware due to its incredible conductivity. It's used for processing units. So I don't think that it would go that angle. I don't see that necessarily for Eneru, that he could use this for some sort of like great scientific discovery, but I think that the conductivity of it, if he's able to sort of go formless or have this physical resistance, I think that gold in a pure form is soft, if I'm not mistaken. It needs to be like processed or whatever to, maybe I'm completely wrong there. I know that gold's conductive. I know that much about it. Obviously, I haven't had a lot of gold in my life to work with.
I've been told gold the size of your thumbnail can be flattened to the size of a tennis court. So that shit's got to be pretty soft.
Yeah, but you can get that gold leaf or whatever you can get off Amazon for like $20 for a bunch of sheets, and that's what they crinkle all over the salt-based steaks to make them look like they're worth $500 when it's like $1 worth of garnish.
Go check out a visit from the Goon Squad if you want to see a guy eating gold, but shout out. So Aggie, I only ask because perhaps you're onto something, and you're making connections I didn't make when I watched it, so very good.
Well, here's what I would say real quick, just to finish off my point. Like a golden armor, if he's able to use that, and then he could like electrify the armor. Maybe, and obviously he's already got these smiting powers, so I don't think he would need to get physical himself, but it would give him like a physical form, and possibly this electrified physical form could be more hazardous to physical attackers if that's where he ends up going with his combat. And maybe he could even possess like a gold suit for certain reasons, and then maybe if that is fighting somebody else where it's not as necessary, then he could like kind of go formless again and drop lightning bolts, things like that. But yeah, it goes to armor and weaponry for me, to what he would utilize with his electric powers.
Aggie, here's a question that I had reading the first chapter of this volume, 256. Is this the only chapter so far that has no Straw Hat characters in it? Because it certainly doesn't have any, but was there one before this? Do we remember? Was there a chapter? There might have been like Vivi flashback to her childhood chapters, but I count her as a Straw Hat, so. But this was just like the vassals, and sure, a string challenge. Wiper knocks him out with a rejectile in one blow. Eneru talking some shit. No Straw Hats. I bet the magazine readers that week were fucking pissed.
True, but yeah, I guess we won't count the volume cover because it shouldn't really count for the chapter itself. Yeah, I guess when I think about it, I can't really contemplate whatever that was. I think the 0.5 of the VV that last final volume of what I would consider kind of the last volume of Alabasta, even though it technically goes on for a couple more chapters in the next volume. But yeah, there was like a 0.5 insert in the volume that was very VV centered. But with you considering her a Straw Hat, yeah, that's the only one that would come to mind.
Which might be cheating. I was also thinking maybe the Spider's Cafe when we meet all the Brokeworks people, but that might have only been half the chapter. We might have seen Usopp. So maybe 256, a Straw Hat-less chapter, who could say? Yeah, we learn about the difference between impact dials and reject dials, where an impact is kind of like maybe a magic cylinder in Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, oh, you shot something at me, okay, I'll absorb that power, shoot it right back. Reject dial, Aggie. This is, how would you describe the difference, I guess?
Well, Berserker. Like, if you're familiar with role-playing, we're going back to a video game reference here, or a gaming reference in general, but what is berserking in essentially all tabletop and role-play gaming for the most part? It is typically a reduction of your current health points to receive a bonus to your damage output for a certain amount of time. So it sort of seems to be like a... it's not that it absorbs like your life force or anything like a standard berserking. This is kind of more of like just the power of it is so great that it deals damage to the user.
It's like a takedown in Pokemon. You're going to take some damage yourself, and they say if you use a reject dial just a handful of times, you'll probably die. And has Wiper he's used at least one. Did he use two in this volume? Like, he's just... rejecting like crazy. Maybe it's just the one against Shura obliterate his string challenge in one go.
Yeah, I believe that he used it, and then as we go through, he sort of indicates that him using it against Eneru will be essentially sacrificial to his own life. But
suicide bombing.
That's what he's saving it for. He's this is going to be what's going to happen to me. So, with that still being in the cards on the table here, especially with Luffy kind of getting knocked out of their fight and kind of wandering, I think if Wiper is able to reach Eneru and he feels like he's got, well, I guess, hold on a second here. Let me stop myself for a moment, because I suppose he's literally called Berserker Wiper. So I suppose this is, this is apparent. But I think, if he's able to reach Eneru and he's able to get what he feels like is a clear shot, I definitely think he's ready to use that rejectile, even if it kills him.
We see Eneru get stabbed with spears, and it's like when Crocodile turns into sand, like it does not affect him, you can't hurt him. Is a rejectile going to work on pure electricity?
I don't feel like we have seen anything at all whatsoever here that has affected Eneru at all. I don't think he's shown any weakness or susceptibility. Frankly, I don't even know what I would predict could be used as an attack against him at this time.
Well, you're going to have to by the end of this podcast, because this guy's got to go down somehow, some way. That is a good question. How do you stop the lightning, man? Crocodile's easy. Just fucking get wet. You're done. Electricity? I don't know. I mean, we're surrounded by dirt and earth. What, are you going to just cover your fists in mud and punch him? Like Pokemon logic? I have a feeling that would not work, but
I think you could resist being electrocuted to cover yourself in mud. That would be a good defensive strategy for sure. But I just don't know if there's any reason to believe that would increase the damage that Eneru would receive. I could think to myself, perhaps maybe some sort of great wind power could, maybe if there's a maelstrom, maybe it would sort of sweep up his bolts or something. Maybe it would sort of impact.
We need Dragon to show up and blow him away like he did to Smoker.
That's right.
It could be. And then at the end of chapter 257, after we get all this impact and rejectile explanation, and we learn about, just by being alive, humans emit voices from their bodies, says Gonfor. That's how Isa can tell who's still conscious and who's not. But then Wiper and Luffy meet at the end of this chapter, and it made me laugh out loud when Wiper says, "Hey, this is the Shandian land, you shouldn't be here." And Luffy says, "Oh, I thought it was God Kami's land. My bad." And he's walking away whistling very casually. It's just very funny, ignoring the guy completely. Anything from Wiper and Luffy before they start fighting?
Well, I also think it's funny how, Luffy just says that very matter-of-factly, "Oh, this is what I was told," but anyway. And Wiper takes that as the gravest insult. He thinks that Luffy's proclaiming that this is Eneru's land, he's for Eneru.
Yeah, big misunderstanding making these guys fight. And we were just playing on live stream 2 days ago, Eggy, One Piece Grand Adventure, and one of Luffy's support characters is Wiper. Now, judging by this volume, he does not seem very supportive. What's going on? As I ask as he takes a sip of his drink.
Well, I guess that could be a little bit of a spoiler alert here. I think it might help a eventual mending of their feelings towards each other, that Luffy sort of dropped out of the fight without dealing significant damage to Wiper.
I like that they both used their bazooka at the same time, a literal one against Gum Gum Bazooka. That was good. The fight was worth it just for that, even if it's pretty much a stalemate by the end.
Mm-hmm.
Should we move on to the Zoro and Braham fight? Which, if I'm going to be dead honest, folks, I didn't even remember this happened. Nobody ever brings it up as as far as I can tell, when people talk about Zoro fights and stuff, I think it might be because Braham is almost a non-entity of a character. Like, he's not even one of Eneru's vassals or, like, the big four challenges. He's just some guy, seemingly. Like, did we even get a build-up to this character that left any impact at all, Aggie? Or was that kind of the point, is that both of them underestimated each other, and he wrote it so well that even the audience underestimated it because he was underwritten?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure if we had, not that I could think of off the top of my head, if we had really an introductory panel in the same way that we had one for a lot of the other combatants here. I kind of liked his appearance at first because sort of it looks to be like some sort of maybe woven basket helmet, but it just reminded me of like some like skateboarding stoner who would like wear his hat too low. Hey, what's up, man? Like just kind of looks almost a little bit out of place, and to kind of go with him being a little bit seemingly out of place, just him having these flashing pistols. I mean, yeah, I guess there's a lot of strange technology that is in Skypia. There's a lot of unusual things, so it's not, I guess, the probably biggest offender of something that's unusual, but I just thought that was interesting. And it was, was it Braham that had the shoe? I'm trying to think. Was that him that had the shoe that gets knocked off and makes him go all over the place? I don't know if that was correct.
It's either Chopper does that or Zoro does it. I don't remember either. I read this a little bit ago, and it's not in my notes. The only note I had from this fucking fight, because, I mean, I didn't really think there was much noteworthy from it, other than maybe when Zoro tries to trick him by putting on goggles and pretends that they're sunglasses. But Zoro's finishing move, he gives a little speech about how in a lifetime there are 36 earthly desires, Aggie, and then he uses that power to form the 36-pound Phoenix Flying Slash Attack, which I think in the video game is called Single Sword Rising Phoenix. I don't know which name's better. But Aggie, my question to you is, in your experience, what are the 36 earthly desires? Because he doesn't really elaborate. It's probably some Buddhist bullshit, but I want Aggie's answer.
Well, when I read that, I thought to myself, it did kind of stop me for a moment. First thing that my mind goes to is the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but that's only like 5 or 6 different things. So let's see, earthly desire. What's my earthly desire? I like drinking. I like gambling.
Okay.
I like good-looking women.
Okay.
I like adrenaline. Like I like driving really fast, and I like doing roller coasters and stuff.
Okay.
I'm sure wealth is probably one. It should be. I'm feeling probably very, anecdotal, but I'm guessing it's just really everything that would cover what we seek here that is not in the afterlife. Because in the afterlife, we want salvation and eternal peace and eternal happiness and all this stuff. But while we're here, I need some, some clothing and some money, and then we have some of the vices, gambling, alcohol, maybe some other things in that realm.
Well, Buddha probably wrote this shit like 1,500 years ago, so it's probably like women's knees, women's ankles, women's feet, the stuff you would desire back then. Maybe they didn't have a gambling hall in Tibet. I don't know any of the words I'm saying, by the way. None of this has to make any sense.
Yeah, it just went to those like impulses, I guess, for me. Like impulses, but also like the comforts and securities, stabilities, things like that you would have.
Is this like a samurai thing, though? So is he saying, I resist these 36 desires and I'm going to use the frustration of that in my attack to kill you? Like, what is the connection between saying this shit and cutting a dude with a sword? I've never really understood Zoro's really badass speeches and stuff like that.
What I would want to say is that he is sort of, like the disciplines that he would need to go without these desires, like honing all those disciplines into the power of one attack. That's how I personally read it, but I don't know if it really actually makes any logical sense. Like if it really has anything, it could just be a cool name for an attack.
Yeah, I think you're onto something with that, and I'm sure somebody, hopefully Poopy Doopy in the comments, will let us know what Zoro meant by all this Buddhist bullshit. So that fight ends after like a chapter. Really, probably the best fight of the chapter has got to be Chopper versus Gadatsu, because I love it when Chopper's in over his head and he's using all 7 of his forms to like barely dodge this onslaught of attacks, and that's always very cool. Like we truly don't get that often enough, is he has to creatively use his forms, not even to fight, just to survive. And that was pretty intense. And then he proves himself as a real pirate. And what'd you think of this fight, Aggie? Would you like to have your head trapped in a swampy cloud where you're drowning and you can't get it off? That's new nightmare fuel.
Yeah. If anybody knows about me, my probably number one fear of all time is claustrophobia. So definitely out of all of the, the string challenge being kind of held up, yeah, that's more of like a binding versus suffocating. So that was definitely high level nightmare fuel. I was thinking almost, I want to say, is it Akuma from Street Fighter? He kind of has some spiky hair too. I feel like he has some sort of, I don't know if it's a form or just an attack or whatever, but essentially his eyes also go completely white. I believe I'm recalling this correctly. So I wonder if with Gadatsu, if his repeatedly rolling his eyes back to go to all white and then blinding himself, if that is sort of a reference there. And it would be, I just don't know if Akuma is the one I'm thinking of though, but Akuma means devil in Japanese, so it'd be sort of like an ironic thing, like, oh, he's the heavenly vassal, but he's imitating a character from Street Fighter who's actually, or Tekken, I think it's Street Fighter.
I do think the devil fruits are called like Akumas or something. That sounds familiar, so you're probably right. And I do see in my notes, it's chapter 262, Chopper steals his shoe. We found the answer. And stealing the shoe distracts Gadatsu enough that Chopper can get the final blow. That's what happened.
Yeah, he definitely has him on the ropes there for a bit. Like, you know, he started off in the volume, he's running through the Shandians and the Heavenly Warriors, but you know, when it comes down to brass tacks, mano a chapo, he definitely shows his chops, no pun intended. Oh.
Well, and as a doctor, you have to treat people no matter how bad they are, and when the Gadatsu's buddy wrongfully takes the brunt of the Cloud Burger swamp attack and is drowning, Chopper saves him and converts him to be on his side. So, good-hearted doctor can cure people's hearts and change them instead of just letting them die. That's pretty good. And this ends with Gadatsu like drowning face first down into the clouds.
Yeah, he's supposed to like go and like shoot himself up, but then he like accidentally just like shoots himself down. That's the end of him? Is he dead? Does he fall out of the sky, or does this ocean also have a bottom like at the altar? I feel like this has to have a bottom, but yeah, I don't know how is he gonna just. He didn't shoot back up in the whole remainder of this volume, so you would think, if he went straight down, he could come straight back up. But, I mean, what's the too stupid to live? Is that...
He might be if he's rolling his eyes back and thinks people disappeared.
Yeah.
Is Gadatsu a good candidate for, like, future cover story material, or should we let him go?
Oh, yeah.
Probably had enough of him.
I gotta say... Absolutely. I know I was a little biased at first. I really just enjoyed his appearance, but just his sort of foolishness here. Like the climax at Drum Island with fighting Wapol, it had some of that silly foolishness in it. So not that I would need to make that connection, but I think he just has that sort of comic energy that would make for a good cover story. So I could definitely give him a recommendation, but I don't know if we're going to be finishing this arc so quickly because Wapol just ended, so we're going to need something coming up here. Maybe if they can hold out with some single panels for the next volume, just some nice little art pieces. Maybe we'll get some Gadatsu towards the resolution of Skypia, but he definitely has my vote in any case.
Oh, that is a good question now that Wapol's cover story ended. Who do you hope to see next? Who are some good candidates?
I want to see Blackbeard. Like he's down there. They didn't suffer at all for the Straw Hats to go to Skypia.
Well, their ship got destroyed. We saw a couple panels of them like just on a log. Like, God damn it.
True. Yeah, that is a good point. Yeah. So I could see something there now that those characters have been identified to us. They're out of the way for a bit, but maybe we didn't get enough of an explanation from them or like enough backstory to really give us a good good cover story, because maybe we're not having a lot to work with there. But I feel like, Cricket and the monkeys, that could go good for a little while. I think we got enough backstory on them. That
some monkey shenanigans, monkey hijinks down there. That would be good.
Good couple volumes, perhaps.
So Chopper wins, claims he's a real pirate now, and then we see something called the Giant Jack. These huge twisting vines going up into the sky that Eneru is supposed to be at the top of, but he comes down to play in the woods for a little bit with his Takamakiri and lets him play around a bit. But Giant Jack, giant beanstalk sort of thing, Aggie. That brings to mind perhaps a story called Jack and the Beanstalk, going up into the sky, climbing a giant vine, Aggie. What's the deal with this? What's going to be up there?
Well,
is there a giant waiting?
As I recall from back in the day, when Jack climbed the beanstalk, there was a giant there that ground him into a fine paste and ate him.
Wait, is that what happened? Is not a happy ending on that one?
I thought in the original version,
oh my god,
he actually gets killed by the giant. It was like the original idea was children should always listen to their parents. Like if you go to the store to buy the milk or whatever it was, and he buys the beans instead, that he disobeyed his parents and disobeyed.
He bought the magic beans. How can you turn down magic beans for a cow? That seems like a good trade.
I'm certain that let's see if I can original Jack Beanstalk ending.
I mean, if the beans were truly magical and grew a beanstalk to the heavens, I mean, he was right. Why punish him?
Oh, perhaps. I'm sorry. According to this, he actually steals the treasure from the giants and then chops the beanstalk down, which kills the giant, and they're rich, and their thievery actually paid off. So wait a second here. A thief goes to the sky and gets some gold and defeats the giant who rules, and then returns to become very wealthy with his riches. Perhaps.
And chops down the beanstalk to hit him on the head to kill him?
Very interesting.
Can electricity be hurt by beanstalks? Is there science behind that one?
Well, I don't believe that root fibers are particularly conductive. Maybe if you could somehow... I'm just thinking of like a giant stalk just like landing on top of Eneru and he can't get out of it. He's trying to like get up into the stalk, but it's like, he doesn't have anywhere to like kind of route out of because the ground's not conducive, the fibers aren't conducive.
As we recall, opening of the Jaya arc, we see these giant silhouettes in the sky, and now there's a Jack's beanstalk. Are we going to find some of these giants up there? Are we going to hit them with their own stock?
Well, on account of the fact that we have seen them obviously displaying angel wings, and must be Ohm's dog, since I think he's the only one that's left. I don't think I've seen the dog do combat yet, so we have the giant dog.
Giant snake.
Where did he come from? Maybe he took the puppy from the sky and brought it down to the upper yard, and it's just been living down there now.
Okay. Well, I'm excited for us to eventually, hopefully, climb the Giant Jack. But like we were saying, Kamakiri shows up. He pulls out a lightsaber dial, which is a usable item in the One Piece game we've been playing. So if you're wondering, why do I have a fucking lightsaber? It's because of Chapter 264. And this lightsaber dial, he's chopping Eneru in half a bunch, but he just turns into energy, so it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. And I think we've more or less talked about everything else there is to see. The volume ends with, we're 2 hours into the survival. 56 have fallen, 25 are left standing. Eggy, any other thoughts on any of this?
Well, I'm glad that we just made this sort of possibly Jack and the Beanstalk connection, because I guess I've just been thinking that must be like some kind of parody, like a Flash cartoon parody from Newgrounds from like 20 years ago that I just watched once, and now my brain thought that was just how it ended. Like he actually just gets killed, and
the giant does threaten to turn him into paste. So maybe they were just going, the alternate ending here.
Eat five fo fum.
I'm gonna stick you up my bum as paste.
Fee fi fo fum bazooka gum gum. That's right.
Oh, I forgot to mention Eneru uses 1 million volt attack, and it gets conducted through the Milky Road and just kills 20 people. So, so just 20 more down. Like his own men, the enemy men, he doesn't care.
Yeah, I thought that was funny. And actually, speaking of bazookas too, I also enjoyed in the Luffy Wiper fight where he turns on like basically like this gas propulsion in order to have this sort of flame blast, and Luffy just gets like blasted with like huge clouds of natural gas or something right in his face. He's just like, "Ooh, this stinks." I'm like, "Hey, this might be the first time that Luffy's ever got the chance to huff gasoline," and as many of us enjoyed that activity, it's really a great experience to look back fondly on.
Is that why he's falling into some strange blackness? Is he tripping off of the gas now, Iggy? And Nami gets hit with like a fart dial as well from the fucking trio.
Yeah, I think I thought to myself as I was reading that, like, that would be the King Cobra power dial, the fart dial.
Any other predictions for Skypia, or really anything else before we get going?
Well, let's see what I'm waiting on my good homeboy Ohm with the dog. Maybe they'll defeat Ohm, and maybe the dog will bow to them, and maybe they'll ride the dog will run super fast up the beanstalk and get reconnected with its giant homeland up there. And
do we think the survival game will come to an end in the final 5 of Luffy, Zoro, Nami, Wiper, and then undecided 5th? Perhaps Eneru himself will remain by the end of the volume 29.
I think so. We definitely, we really got into the combat. We got our good kind of explanation groundwork at the start of this volume, and we really just got right into it with a lot of combat. I think that my prediction for volume 29 is that there's definitely got to still be some combat leading up to the Eneru fight, but I think we're going to have a good mix of combat, and then we're also going to come back into a little bit of the story building and plot points that precede the Eneru fight. And I would like to think that we're going to be maybe having Luffy's going to be going down through these ruins. Maybe he's going to find something. I would like to think that at the least we're going to be in the beginning preceding stages of having the actual combat with Eneru coming in volume 30. So that's my prediction for volume 29.
Should we do a new segment at the end of these episodes so that people can choose to bow out if they don't want to hear it, called #SuperSpoilers, where I pull up the spoiler page of the most recent release and just read one line from it to you to get your reaction to something far in the future?
I'm not against it. I mean, I think probably now is a good as time as any. I think maybe once we get to like chapter 800 or something like that, it might start just being a little too...
For the fun of the game, I'm going to give information that is completely meaningless without context, as all spoilers are. So, what do you think of this from chapter 1140, Aggie?
Okay.
Shamrock and Gunko land on a giant branch. That's your super spoiler of the week. What do you think of that? Shamrock and Gunko land on a giant branch.
Well, that's much better than if they missed the giant branch, so I'm very happy for whoever those people are. I don't have any way to know if they're good or bad right now, so...
Does Shamrock sound like a good guy, like a Shamrock Shake? Makes me kind of thirsty. Hey, delicious minty flavor.
By the time the non-measly crewers see this, it'll probably be just about the time that they're releasing the Shamrock Shake.
Yep.
I heard it's a little upcharged this year, but I'm sure it's still delicious. I know right now Arby's just released the whatever they do, whatever shake they have, whatever it is, with crushed up Andes mint chocolate candy pieces, so that's a little more my speed. Those are some of my favorite candies. So I would hope that Shamrock is a good person who likes to eat mint chocolate candies. Gunco sounds kind of like Funko. So maybe he's like, I would like to think that Oda hasn't gotten to the point where he's doing Funko Pop referentials in One Piece, but or maybe he's gunky, maybe he's dirty and filthy, maybe he needed to fall onto the branch, maybe the propulsion that he had through the air, maybe wiped off some of his gunk.
Man, this is my new favorite segment. Every week we gotta get Iggy's reaction to what's happening 23 years in the future. Okay, I think that's it, Iggy. Do you have anything you want to plug?
Well, I have come to the conclusion, I think, since my sort of professional gambling has been productive in recent times, I think that I am going to basically do a video kind of detailing my method of how I've been making this money and not even include any referral codes or whatever so people know it's on the level.
Yeah.
But probably if you do it, I haven't got cut off yet. I've been doing it for maybe about a month straight now. I mean, almost guaranteed extra $20, $30 every single day. And as long as, this online casino doesn't immediately just snake off and run off into the Caribbean or whatever with everybody's money.
Which is an option, but, get in before they do that. Cash out now.
That would be the right choice to do it. I do cash out every day. That's kind of part of my system is I utilize the deposit bonuses. A lot of them, they try and keep you from doing this, and I have been stopped by a handful of online casinos recently as a result, or they've significantly diminished my bonuses, but it's still been consistent.
You're a good gambler when the casinos are banning you for winning too much money and not losing any.
That's right.
We'll see you next week for volume 29, Measly Crew. Hey, join up on the channel, Mumkey D. Jones, $3 a month, join the Discord, get early episodes, etc. Should have plugged that at the beginning and not the end. Who cares? Bye, everybody.
Peace.